After I signed myself over to the government, my fiancée had regrets. I had pursued Chloe Davis for 7 years. After she stood me up for the 108th time, I finally called the number for the National Institutes of Health. I was ready to sign over both myself and my patent to the government. Meanwhile, my fiancé warned me with a cold expression, "Once you drop out, don't come running to me all the time. Jacob will get jealous." I didn't even look up, just replied with a quiet, "Okay." She didn't suspect a thing and continued, "Since you're being so reasonable, transfer the patent to Jacob. After his graduation party, we can go get our marriage license." I paused for a moment before nodding in compliance. I didn't bother explaining to them. I had already decided to sign the patent over to the government and join the lab at the institute. It was a classified, national-level laboratory. I would have to disappear for at least 3 years. When the dean of my university found out about my decision, he was ecstatic. "The project begins in 10 days. Don't you need to discuss this with your girlfriend and your family?" "There's no need." I gave a bitter smile. That house hadn't been a home to me for a long time anyway. Last year, my father brought Leo Miller, a scholarship student our family had been sponsoring, to live with us after his parents died in a car crash. Unlike me, who just quietly got things done, Leo was a master of flattery. In less than a year with the Johnson family, he had become the center of their world. It wasn't just my father who treated him like a prized son. Even my childhood sweetheart and my own sister fell for him. When Leo broke my mother's memorial portrait, my father just said we should move on and actually took down the memorial shelf entirely. He even tried to take the patent for the cardiac stent I developed in my mother's memory. To force my hand, Chloe, my childhood love, threatened to leave me. Blood ties and a lifetime of love meant less than his silver tongue. I was tired of fighting for my place. It was better to just leave. I chose to set myself free. When I got back to the house, the dining room was alive with celebration, a stark contrast to my own isolation. The family was celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Leo starting his new life with the Johnsons. No one remembered it was also my birthday. After Mom died, no one ever celebrated my birthday or gave me a gift again. I saw my girlfriend, Chloe, and my sister, Clara, sitting on either side of Leo, watching him with gentle smiles as they gave him presents. My expression remained cold, betraying no emotion. As I walked past the dining room, my father, David Johnson, stopped me. "I told you to speak with the dean about transferring the patent to Leo. Did you do it?" I shook my head. "The patent isn't mine anymore." Everyone else heard this and assumed I had given in. Chloe excitedly threw her arms around Leo. "That's wonderful. It's a nationally recognized patent. With this, you'll have no trouble with college admissions or your career." "Congratulations," I said, watching them with cold detachment. As I turned to leave, Leo cut a slice of mango cake and held it out to me. "Ethan, thank you for everything. This is for you." With his back to the others, Leo dropped his innocent act, his face a mask of pure provocation. It was the look of a conqueror. I took the plate, my expression grim. Leo had been with me just the other day when I picked up my medical report. No one else knew about my severe mango allergy, but he knew perfectly well. "Ethan, why are you taking it out on him?" Chloe stood up, her eyes fixed on me coldly. "I'm the one who told you to give him the patent. If you're angry, be angry with me." Leo started wiping away tears, his voice trembling. "Chloe, don't blame Ethan. It's all my fault. I know nothing in this house is really mine. I know Ethan has always looked down on me. I'm so sorry, Ethan. If you don't want me here, I can leave right now. I really don't want to be a parasite. I just want to repay Mr. Johnson for his kindness. I'm sorry." "Leo, this is your home," my sister Clara immediately interjected, grabbing his arm. "I won't let anyone make you leave." David Johnson slammed his fork down in anger. "We were all having a wonderful time until you showed up and ruined the mood. When are you going to grow up? How did I ever raise such a petty, disrespectful son? Now eat that cake and apologize to Leo." Staring at the disgust in my own father's eyes, even though I had already resolved to leave this toxic house, my hands began to shake. My heart felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I forced the words through my teeth. "And what if I don't?" I never imagined that the moment I spoke, a sharp slap would crack across my face. Then, in a blind rage, my father grabbed the cake and shoved it into my mouth. It happened so fast. Before I could react, my lips went numb and my throat started to close up. My legs buckled and I fell to the floor. Leo feigned concern. "Ethan, what's wrong? Do you need me to call an ambulance?" "Pay him no mind," my father scoffed. "He's just being dramatic. Let's carry on." The voices around me became a chaotic blur as I crawled my way back to my room. I fumbled open the drawer, grabbed my EpiPen, and jabbed it into my thigh. With the last of my strength, I dialed 911. Then I just stared at the ceiling, numb and empty. Soon, just 10 more days. Then I could finally leave this cold, heartless house, leave these awful people, and go somewhere no one would ever find me. A family that treated me like a stranger, a lover full of false sentiment. I was done with all of it. At some point, I lost consciousness. In the haze, I dreamed of middle school. My first paper had just been published in a medical journal, and I brought the issue home, bursting with pride. But no one else in the family understood it. They glanced at it and tossed it aside. Only Mom read it for a long time. Finally, she stroked my hair, her eyes full of love, and told me how proud she was. I asked her curiously if she could understand the complex terms. She shook her head, her voice gentle as a spring morning. I don't understand the words, sweetie, but I recognize your name right here at the top. Even now, so many years later, I remember that afternoon perfectly. My work gets published in major journals all the time now, but the one person who would stroke my hair and praise me is gone. Mom! I woke up with the lingering trace of tears on my cheeks. My vision focused on a sweet-faced nurse. It was Maya Reed, a junior from my program doing her internship at the hospital. Ethan, your family is unbelievably cold, she said, her voice filled with indignation. The paramedics told me you almost died, and your family just kept on with their party, completely ignoring you. You've been unconscious for 2 days, and not a single one of them has come to visit. Hearing her angry words, I felt nothing. My face was a blank mask. My lack of reaction seemed to make her heart ache for me. There is no greater sorrow than a heart that has given up. Ethan, I brought you some soup, she said softly. You should try to eat something. Before I could refuse, Maya gently lifted a spoonful of broth to my lips. I had no choice but to open my mouth and take it. Slowly, the image of Maya in front of me began to merge with a memory. Right after Mom died, I was inconsolable, clinging to her photograph, refusing to eat or go to school. My father, furious, whipped me with his belt until I was covered in welts. My sister cowered in the corner, too terrified to speak. It was Chloe who ran into my house and shielded me with her own small body. She took me to her house and fed me herself. Back then, Chloe was the only light in my world. I never imagined the girl who promised we'd be together forever would one day love someone else. Ethan, who is she? A cold voice snapped me out of my reverie. Chloe was standing in the doorway, her expression dark. After falling for Leo, she had already decided to end things with me. Yet, seeing Maya gently feeding me soup, Chloe felt an unexpected pang of pain in her chest. It was as if something that was rightfully hers was being stolen. Maya started to explain, but Chloe rushed forward without a word. She slapped the bowl from Maya's hand, sending it crashing to the floor. Shards of ceramic flew everywhere. I couldn't move fast enough, and a long, deep gash opened on my arm, blood instantly welling up. I flinched from the sharp pain, but Chloe never even glanced at me. Her dark gaze was locked on Maya as she commanded, "Get out!" She spoke as if I were her personal property, a toy no one else was allowed to touch. Just then, her phone rang. She answered and her face went pale. Leo is blaming himself. His depression flared up and he tried to overdose. I have to go be with him at the hospital. I'll check on you later, okay? It wasn't a question, it was a statement. She was leaving. I clutched my bleeding arm and looked at her unforgiving face, a bitter smile forming on my lips. Fine, what's there to be upset about? Chloe, in 8 more days, you won't have to put on this act ever again. Her eyes met my vacant stare, and for a moment, she faltered. But the thought of Leo in the hospital hardened her resolve. She gritted her teeth and walked away without another word. Maya stared, completely stunned. She had secretly had a crush on me for a long time, but she'd always heard I had a serious girlfriend from childhood, so she had kept her feelings hidden. There was a time she had been so jealous of this woman she'd never even met. Now, she couldn't believe that at the moment I needed care the most, that same woman was leaving to be with another man. My arm was still bleeding freely, but I felt nothing, as if the pain belonged to someone else. My eyes were lifeless. Maya's lips trembled, her heart breaking for me. She couldn't imagine how deeply Chloe must have wounded me to change me from the cheerful person I used to be into this empty shell. Ethan, I'll get a bandage for your arm. After she bandaged my arm, I asked her to help me with the discharge papers. As I was about to leave, Maya gently tugged on my sleeve. She knew I couldn't go back to the Johnson house. If you don't mind, Ethan, you could stay here a few more days. She was offering to take care of me. I just smiled and shook my head. I didn't want to drag Maya into my mess. One person getting hurt was enough. When I got back to the house, I had a text from my father. Leo is recovering and needs us. We won't be home tonight. We left some food for you in the kitchen. Help yourself. On the dining room table were a few plates of scraps, bits of fatty meat and wilted vegetables, next to a bowl of cold, congealed soup. They hadn't saved me dinner. These were Leo's leftovers. I felt nothing. I was used to it. From the moment Leo arrived, my father had doted on him, the poor scholarship kid. He'd say Leo grew up poor and malnourished, so Leo always got the best food first. I was older, so I was expected to be mature and give up everything for him without complaint. It wasn't in my nature to fight, so I just watched as Leo took everything that was mine. He even took my bedroom. I was moved to the drafty attic with its hard, uncomfortable bed. I guess in my father's eyes, Leo, with his smooth talk and charming personality, was the son he'd always wanted. Just then, the door opened and my sister, Clara, walked in with a bag. She stopped short when she saw me, her expression quickly souring into a frown, as if she'd just spotted something unpleasant. "I'm just grabbing some things for Leo," she said. "Also, Chloe wanted me to tell you that it's over between you. She wants to make it a clean break. Leo's depression is acting up again, so she can't leave his side. She asked me to give these back to you. They're the gifts you gave her." She held out an old cassette player. It was the first gift I ever gave Chloe. I didn't have any money back then, so I couldn't afford anything expensive. I saved my lunch money for 6 months to buy it for her, and I filled a tape with all her favorite songs. I can still remember her hugging me, tears in her eyes, promising she would cherish it forever. And now, she had not only broken that promise, but she couldn't even be bothered to return it to me herself. A cynical look crossed my face. My heart was already dead to her, so I had no expectations left. I calmly said, "I understand. That's it. I understand." Clara stared at me, her eyes welling up with tears. "After everything Chloe did for you, is that all you have to say? You've been so different ever since Mom died. You pushed Leo so far he almost died, and you haven't even asked if he's okay. I get it now. You're just mad because Leo gets all the attention, and you secretly wish he would just die, don't you? His life is already so tragic, and you're still jealous. When did you become so cruel?" Hearing this, I almost laughed. If Leo really wanted to kill himself, how did he manage to take a dose that was so perfectly non-lethal? Just in time for my family to find him? For years, Leo had used these pathetic tricks to steal their affection, piece by piece. I was long past caring. Besides, even if I tried to explain, it would be pointless. I hadn't said a word, yet she had already convicted me of a dozen imaginary crimes. With them, even my silence was an offense. Before she left, Clara wiped her tears away, her voice turning cold as ice, as if she had given up on me completely. "You know," she began, "I wish it had been you who gave me blood after the accident, not Leo. You're my actual brother, but when I needed you most, you hid away like a coward. I hate you." With a violent slam of the door, Clara was gone. She never looked back. 6 months ago, Clara was hit by a drunk driver. She was in critical condition from massive blood loss. The hospital's blood supply was low. They were short 1,400 cubic centimeters. My father and I were both matches, ready to donate. But after giving just 200 cubic centimeters, my father cried out that he couldn't do it and made the nurse stop. By the time they had drawn 800 cubic centimeters from me, I was already lightheaded. But thinking of my sister in that hospital bed, I gritted my teeth and told them to take the remaining 1,200 cubic centimeters they needed. When I woke up, I was in a different, older room, completely alone. I found out later that my father, wanting Clara to bond with Leo, had told everyone that Leo was the one who donated the blood. After I was discharged, I dragged my weak body to Clara to explain, only to be met with a slap. Crying, she screamed at me, asking where I had been when she needed me most. She yelled about how Leo had given so much blood he almost died for her. I swallowed my bitterness and told her to just check the hospital records. They would show who the donor was. To this day, she has never checked. She remains convinced that Leo's blood runs through her veins. In her mind, her own brother is a monster who left her to die. No matter what I say or do, she assumes I have some hidden agenda. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm done trying to explain. I've had enough. I sat on the couch in the empty, silent house, which felt devoid of any warmth. The wind howled outside. I closed my eyes and covered my ears. But I couldn't escape the heavy, oppressive atmosphere that felt like it could crush me at any moment. Since no one here cared about me, since no one needed me, I would simply disappear. My phone buzzed. It was a Facebook post from Leo. "Thanks for all the concern, everyone. I'm doing okay now. And a special thanks to Chloe for always being there when I need her. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." The photo showed him in a hospital bed, his hand intertwined with Chloe's as she sat beside him. They looked like a perfect couple. I glanced at it for a second, then locked my phone and set it aside. Chloe and I were finished. Whether Leo's post was meant to gloat or to provoke me, I didn't care. It wouldn't bring me joy or sorrow. I cooked myself a warm meal and went to sleep. With the house completely empty, it was the soundest I'd slept in years. The next morning, I woke up and made myself a fresh cup of coffee. I sat on the patio, listening to the morning news on the radio and stretching in the sun. Burdened by family drama for so long, this was the first time I had truly enjoyed a moment of peace. I should have started living for myself long ago. After breakfast, I went to my room. I planned to gather the gifts Chloe had given me over the years to return them. But as I looked, I realized there were barely any. The few things she had given me were cheap trinkets. I had treasured every single one, keeping them locked safely in a drawer. But now, taking them out, I saw they were yellowed and mildewed with age. Just like her feelings for me. I shook my head. Chloe was a germaphobe. She wouldn't want this junk back. I tossed everything into a metal trash can, along with every photo we had ever taken together, and lit a match. The roaring fire mercilessly consumed all the good memories we once shared. After that, I went to the university and filed the paperwork to take a leave of absence. I decided to spend my last few days traveling nearby to clear my head. I was looking at brochures when Chloe showed up. Unlike my relaxed state, she looked like she hadn't slept all night. Clara must have told her how I reacted, or rather, didn't react when I got her things back. She knew exactly how much I loved her, so she couldn't believe I would be so stoic. But when she saw the charred remains of her gifts and our photos in the trash can, her face fell as if the sky was falling. I used to cherish these things, and now I had thrown them away like garbage. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you burn my gifts and our pictures?" Hearing the tremor in her voice, I glanced up at her pale face. They were old and moldy, so I burned them. Chloe stared at me, stunned. Then a look of realization crossed her face. "You knew I was coming, didn't you? This is all just an act, some game to try and win me back. Ethan, why are you always so childish?" She started to turn away, but then her eyes caught the university paperwork on the table. Chloe's mind went blank. "You're dropping out? Is this because we asked you to give the patent to Leo? Tell me, where are you going?" A strange sense of panic washed over her, and she grabbed my arm tightly. I was right there, solid and real under her touch. But for some reason, she felt as if I might vanish at any second. I had no intention of telling her the truth. I was tired. "I'm just taking a break for a few days, going to travel around the area. I won't be going far." I showed her the travel brochures on the table. Seeing that I seemed to be telling the truth, she relaxed her grip slightly. "Oh good, I knew you wouldn't be that petty over a patent. You can always invent something else." Just then, her phone rang. It was Clara calling from the hospital. "Chloe, where are you? Leo woke up and you weren't here, and he's having a breakdown. He's banging his head against the wall. He's bleeding everywhere. You have to come back. Please hurry." Chloe rushed towards the door, but paused to look back at me. "Go on your trip if you need to clear your head. Just don't go too far." I smiled to myself. "Don't worry, I won't go too far. Just far enough that you'll never find me." As she left, she glanced at the pile of ashes in the yard. Chloe's brow furrowed, a feeling of unease settling in her stomach. But she quickly dismissed it. Ethan was already acting so cold and distant. She didn't need to feel guilty. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that I was hiding something. "Stop overthinking," she told herself. "Where could he possibly go? Taking care of Leo is more important right now. I can't get distracted." With the thought of Leo, she put me out of her mind and hurried away. Over the next few days, I joined a tour group and visited all the local landmarks. Being around people my own age was a relief, and the atmosphere was great. We watched the sunset from a mountain peak and had a bonfire under the stars. Here, I was free from the pain of family and love. I felt more certain than ever that you have to live for yourself. The final stop on the tour was an upscale garden restaurant. I had just settled into a table by the window, ready to enjoy a quiet afternoon, when I saw a familiar group walk in. It was Leo. It was the day he was being released from the hospital, and my entire family was there to celebrate. They took the most conspicuous table in the center of the room. There was champagne, presents, and a large cake. All the things I had never once received were now spread out before him. I watched as my father poured Leo a glass of champagne and saw Chloe look on with concern. "Mr. Johnson, Leo just got out of the hospital. Maybe he shouldn't be drinking." "Nonsense," my father boomed. "Someone has to drink with me, or this expensive bottle will go to waste. Why don't you have a glass for him, Chloe?" "Don't worry, Chloe," Leo said. leaning in to whisper in her ear. A little sip won't hurt me. Your dad is so happy today. I don't want to ruin it. I'll be fine. To any outsider, their intimate posture made them look like a couple deeply in love. Seeing her chance, Clara chimed in. If he can't drink, then you two should kiss instead. My father's eyes lit up at the suggestion. Yes, that's a great idea. One kiss, and Leo doesn't have to drink. Chloe's face flushed crimson, but she didn't say no. Instead, she glanced at Leo, a coy look in her eyes, her chin tilted up as if in invitation. Without a moment's hesitation, Leo leaned in and kissed her. Chloe was initially startled by his boldness, her first instinct to shyly push him away. But she quickly relaxed into the kiss, her body softening against his. She gave in to his passionate advance, her breathing growing heavy as she returned his kiss. I remembered a time I had gently kissed her cheek without asking first. She hadn't spoken to me for a week after that. Turned out Chloe wasn't shy at all. She was just cold to me. I felt sick to my stomach. I stood up and walked towards the exit. On my way out, Chloe saw me. She gasped and shoved Leo away. The rest of the table finally noticed I had been there. As soon as I was outside, Leo ran after me, grabbing my shoulder. Ethan, that wasn't what it looked like. Let go of me, I said, frowning. I didn't want to hear his excuses, but he held on, his grip tightening. You know, he whispered, if I were to fall right now, I bet your family would think you pushed me. The moment the words were out, he let out a theatrical cry and threw himself backward. He crashed right through the plate glass window of the restaurant. My family came running at the sound of the shattering glass. They found Leo lying in a pile of broken shards, blood streaming from a cut on his head. His arms and clothes were covered in cuts. Ethan, are you insane? Are you trying to kill him? Clara shrieked, rushing to cradle Leo in her arms. Before I could speak, my father's fist connected with my jaw. I hit the pavement, spitting out a mouthful of blood and a piece of a broken tooth. I opened my mouth to try and explain, but seeing the raw hatred in my family's eyes, the way they looked at me as if they wanted to tear me apart, the words caught in my throat. My own family would only ever believe this outsider. Whatever I said would be a lie. In their eyes, I was the villain. Leo sobbed in Clara's arms. Ethan, if you hate me this much, just say so. I'll disappear from your lives forever, I promise. If this is about Chloe, you can have her back. I'll do anything, just please, don't hurt me again. Leo's performance brought tears to my family's eyes. Chloe looked at me, her own eyes filled with disbelief. Ethan, is that what this is about? You think Leo stole me from you? So you tried to kill him? She stared at me, horrified. I met her gaze, a blank look on my face, and then I started to laugh, the sound catching in my throat as I coughed up more blood. I guess when your heart is truly broken, all you can do is laugh. The fact that I was laughing seemed to be the final straw for her. Her disappointment was absolute. You know, she said, her voice dripping with contempt, I don't even hate you anymore. I just hate myself for ever being blind enough to love a monster like you. You're pathetic. I wish you would just die. With those final words, she turned her back on me and helped my family get Leo to the hospital. I watched them go, and I couldn't stop laughing. The people on the street stared, probably thinking I was crazy. I lay on the cold ground for a long time, unable to move. My heart was in a million pieces. Couldn't hurt anymore. My eyes weren't filled with anger or resentment, just a profound, numb indifference. Nothing mattered anymore. In 3 days, they would never have to see my wretched face again. When I walked into the house, the cheerful chatter inside died instantly. Every look I received screamed the same question. How do you have the nerve to come back? It was like I was a dog they'd kicked out, now crawling back to the doorstep, broken and pathetic. I ignored them all and went up to my small space in the attic. I cleaned my cuts by myself. When I was done, I lay down on the hard bed. I stared blankly at the inky night sky. I just wanted these next few days to pass quickly. I couldn't wait to be free of this heartless family. Over the next 3 days, the Johnsons threw themselves into planning Leo's graduation party. My father, who truly adored him, even announced he was going to the courthouse to formally adopt him. He said Leo was 100 times the man I'd ever be. On the day of the party, my father, a man who had never once come to a parent-teacher conference for me, wore an expensive, custom-tailored suit for the first time in his life. No one invited me to join them. It was as if I didn't exist. Just before they left, Leo knocked on my attic door. The usual mask of timid innocence was gone. Ethan, he sneered, get on your knees and beg me. Maybe I'll ask Dad to forgive you. When I didn't react, a smirk spread across his face. You're smarter than me in every way, Ethan. Your only weakness is that you don't know how to grovel and suck up to people. That's why you deserve to watch as I take everything from you. Your family, your girlfriend, even your patent. Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't killed yourself yet. Is it fun, living like a stray dog? He laughed. He said many more things, unafraid that I would repeat them. He knew no one would believe a word I said. He only left when Clara came to get him, and they all went to the party together. After Leo left, I pulled a small, active digital recorder from under my bed and pressed the stop button. Today was the day I was leaving this city for good. Before I left, I wanted the Johnsons to see for themselves what kind of monster they had nurtured. Half an hour later, the car from the institute arrived. The man who picked me up was surprised to see I was only carrying my mother's photograph. We're heading out now. Is that all you're bringing? This is all I need. I held the frame tighter and shook my head. I didn't want to take anything else with me. At the airport, I sat in the waiting area. I let the warm sunlight wash over me. This was the beginning of my new life. Just then, my phone rang. It was Chloe. I went back to the restaurant yesterday, she said. I saw the security footage. I know Leo fell on his own. It wasn't your fault. Can we meet after the party? I want to apologize for what I said. It was horrible. And I'm sorry I forgot your birthday. I was just so busy. I'll make it up to you. I even bought you a gift. She wasn't worried I'd refuse. She thought she knew me so well. In the past, no matter how much she upset me, all she had to do was act a little sweet, and I would always come running back. Every single time. This time, however, I said nothing. My eerie silence made her nervous. Just then, the boarding announcement for my flight began. Chloe's voice turned frantic. Wait, what is that noise? Ethan, where are you? I ended the call, removed the SIM card from my phone, and snapped it in two. I was no longer susceptible to their false displays of affection. My father, my sister, my first love, I was done with them all. With that final thought, I walked toward the gate and never looked back. Back at the graduation party, Chloe stood frozen, her body shaking as she stared at her phone. She never imagined I would hang up on her. When she tried to call back, the call wouldn't go through. All she got was a cold, automated message. The number was no longer in service. What was happening? Ethan hadn't said a word. She had only heard that faint announcement in the background. It sounded like an airport, but that was impossible. Where would he go? Chloe, what's wrong? Leo asked, noticing her agitation. She told him she couldn't get through to my phone. Don't worry, Chloe, he said reassuringly. I checked on him right before we left. He was in his room. He couldn't have gone anywhere. Seeing she was still lost in thought, Leo took her hand, a wounded look on his face. Ethan must still be mad at me about the patent. It's all my fault. I'll go back right now and apologize. I'll get on my knees and beg him if I have to. I'll make things right between you two. Chloe frowned. Normally, his words would have touched her deeply, but now something about them felt wrong. She had seen the security footage. She knew I hadn't pushed him, but Leo had acted as if I had brutally attacked him, which had tricked her into believing I was violent. It had made her lose her temper and say all those horrible, regrettable things. When she confronted Leo about it later, he had just looked at her with pitiful eyes. He claimed he couldn't remember clearly if he had just lost his balance or if I had actually pushed him. The excuse was flimsy, as if he was just trying to get away with the lie. But, considering how weak he was after his hospital stay, she tried to convince herself it was possible he was just confused. She wanted to believe it was all just a misunderstanding. But late at night, a terrible thought would creep into her mind. What if Leo had framed me on purpose? It wouldn't be the first time something like this had happened. Every time she had tried to visit me, Leo would have some sort of episode that required her immediate attention. If it was all an act, a calculated manipulation, the thought sent a chill down her spine. Of course, she didn't truly believe it. Leo was so dependent on her, and with his depression, it made sense that he would panic when she wasn't around. But now, as Leo held her hand, she found herself instinctively pulling away. She forced a smile. I'm still worried about Ethan. You all stay here. I need to go back and check on him. I'm worried something's happened. Hearing that Chloe was leaving, Clara rushed over to stop her. Just wait until the party's over. What could possibly happen to him at home by himself? He's just doing this for attention, trying to ruin Leo's big night. My father nodded in agreement, gritting his teeth. That little bastard would do something like that. Ignore him. Chloe stared at the father and daughter, shocked by their cold indifference. Not one of them was concerned about my well-being. Suddenly, she remembered how, for as long as she'd known me, I had never been shown any real love in that house. For my entire life, she had been my whole world, and she had forgotten that. She had even told me she wished I would die. What have I done? She thought, horrified. Chloe stumbled backward, ignoring their protests as she ran out of the hotel. "Chloe, don't go." Leo's sudden, desperate scream cut through the noise of the party. To keep her there, he staggered and deliberately slammed his head into the sharp corner of a decorative table. Blood gushed from the new wound. He fell, landing his hand on a broken plate, but he ignored the pain, stubbornly reaching a bloodied hand in the direction she had gone. The crowd backed away, a hush falling over the room. Chloe's heels clicked sharply on the tile as she hesitated. She turned back and met Leo's eyes, which were now framed by streaks of blood. His normally charming eyes were filled with tears, his lashes matted with blood. His pale lips moved, repeating a broken mantra. "Chloe, please don't leave me. I'm begging you. I'll do anything." Seeing him in this state, Clara burst into tears. "His medication is in my purse," she sobbed. "The doctor said any more stress could." Before she could finish, Chloe just said, "I'm sorry." She turned and walked quickly out of the party. A terrible feeling of dread had taken root in her heart, and she couldn't ignore it. She just wanted to find me, to explain everything. "Ethan, where are you?" she cried, bursting through the door to the attic. The room was empty, though the faint scent of his cologne still hung in the air. A beam of sunlight cut through the dusty air, illuminating a small box on the desk. On top of the box was a note, the ink still fresh. "I'm gone. Don't look for me. From this day forward, we are strangers." A roar filled Chloe's head, and the world tilted on its axis. She nearly collapsed. When the dizziness subsided, she shook her head in disbelief, trembling. "No," she whispered to herself. "This is just a joke. He's trying to scare me. Where would he even go? He has nowhere else. After my mother died, I was a lonely child with no one to love me. It was Chloe who laughed with me, cried with me, who helped me plant an entire grove of peach trees in the backyard. All of my best memories were with her. How could I be so cruel? How could I just disappear from her life forever?" Then, a memory struck her. She stumbled out to the yard, to one of the peach trees. She remembered it clearly. After they planted the trees, they had buried something there. A time capsule. I had written a letter to my future self. In it, I wrote that Chloe was the girl I would love and cherish for the rest of my life. I promised that when I grew up, I would marry her, protect her always, and never, ever leave her. I had even woven a small ring for her from a peach tree branch. I was going to give it to her on our wedding day. Tears streamed down Chloe's face as she clawed at the dirt with her bare hands. She didn't stop, even when her fingernails broke and her hands started to bleed. When the small, mud-caked tin box was finally unearthed, a relieved smile spread across her face. She pried it open, and the smile froze on her lips. Inside was a small pile of still warm ashes. On a blackened scrap of paper, she could just make out the faint watermark of two intertwined hearts. Trembling, she scooped up the ashes. She watched in a daze as the half-burnt peach branch ring, its delicate weaving still visible, slipped through her fingers. She clutched her chest, struggling to breathe. In that moment, Chloe finally understood. I was really, truly gone. She had lost me forever. People who truly want to leave don't make a scene. They just put on a jacket one ordinary morning, walk out the door, and never come back. They disappear like a dry leaf caught in the wind. No farewells are necessary. Even a simple goodbye is too much effort. Chloe covered her face and began to sob. She should have seen it coming. She'd had a bad feeling ever since she saw me burning our photos. That day, I had been sitting in the yard just like always, but my eyes had been completely empty, devoid of light. If only she had tried to really talk to me then. Maybe things wouldn't have ended up like this. Or maybe, it was already over the moment she sided with my family, pressuring me to give up my patent. My heart had already died then. It was the culmination of one disappointment after another. "No," she said, her voice firm. "I have to find him." Chloe staggered to her feet, her reflection in the window a broken, distorted image. She didn't even feel the scratches the branches had left on her arms. When she got back to the living room, she found the Johnsons had returned. When he heard I was gone, my father just snorted. "So he's running away to play the victim now. Let him. When he gets hungry enough, he'll come crawling back for scraps." "Good riddance," Clara said, clapping her hands. "It's his fault Leo's condition got so much worse anyway." Leo stepped forward. "Chloe, I'll help you look for him." But the moment his fingers brushed her arm, he froze, stunned by the icy glare she gave him. Without a word, Chloe left the Johnson house. As she sped away, the house in her rearview mirror seemed to twist into a monstrous shape. It was mocking her frantic escape. She drove straight to the airport. The constantly changing flight information on the departure boards made her eyes ache. She scanned every face in the crowd, mechanically reading the flight details. But in her mind, every screen was playing a montage of our happiest moments. A security guard finally approached her, and she realized with a jolt that she was standing in the middle of the terminal, hair disheveled, screaming my name. Her voice was raw and hoarse. After finding nothing at the airport, she clung to one last sliver of hope and began visiting every place she thought I might go. She prayed she would see me on a street corner, at a park, anywhere. She would run to me, throw her arms around me, and tell me how sorry she was. She would promise to always be on my side from now on. As dusk settled over the city, she ended up at the locked gate of the old, abandoned observatory on the edge of town, with nowhere else to go. It was the place I had taken her to watch a meteor shower when we were kids. Now it was just a desolate ruin, with only crows to pick over the bones of old memories. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was my father, his voice thick with false concern. "Chloe, after you left, Leo had another relapse. He was trying to cut his wrists. We barely managed to stop him. Please, you have to come back. If he wants to die so badly," she snarled. "Then let him." Chloe furiously hurled her phone against the iron gate. The battery popped out, scattering a flock of crows. Then she sank to the ground, hugged her knees and wept. The cold wind whipped around her. In her despair, she could almost hear my voice from years ago, when we were 16. "Did you know?" I had said. "When the star Betelgeuse explodes, it will take its light 642 years to reach Earth. I think the distance between us now is even greater than that." The sky was the color of blood as Chloe walked back into the Johnson house. She slapped a medical report, still smelling of the hospital, across Leo's face. The sharp edge of the paper left a red welt on his pale cheek. He flinched, curling into himself on the leather sofa like a startled deer. Normal serotonin levels. Stable dopamine receptor activity. Every single marker is normal. Every word she spoke was coated in ice. "Leo, you don't have depression. Why did you lie to us?" The air in the room grew thick and still. Clara snatched the report, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it in the trash. "What right do you have to invade his privacy?" Clara snapped. "You can't diagnose a mental illness with a blood test." "Fine," Chloe said, throwing a second document on the table. "What about this?" Her eyes were sharp as daggers. "It's a forged diagnosis. There's no Dr. Miller at the psychiatric center. There's no record of Leo ever having an appointment. I also checked the security footage from that night. He wasn't at a clinic. He was at a bar downtown. He was never sick. He's healthier than any of us." Leo suddenly clutched his head, feigning a headache. His long lashes were wet with fake tears. "I haven't been sleeping well. I was just going out to buy some melatonin." "Are you done with your performance?" Chloe asked. Seeing him still putting on this act, Chloe's eyes blazed with fury. "You wanted to kill yourself, didn't you? Fine." She pulled a small pocket knife from her purse. "Here's your chance." She tossed it onto the coffee table with a sharp clack. "It's a Swiss Army knife. Should be sharp enough. Go on. Do it. I'll watch. And don't worry, if you chicken out, I'll even call 911 for you." The color drained from Leo's face, his expression frozen. He was so cowed by her intensity he could barely breathe. "That's enough," my father roared, the force of his voice making the crystal chandelier tremble. He pulled Leo behind him protectively, his eyes bloodshot and furious. "Ever since Ethan left, you've been acting like a rabid dog, lashing out at everyone. First you ruin Leo's party, and now you come in here spouting this garbage. If anyone's sick, it's you. Now get out of my house. Don't upset my son Leo any further." Clara stood up as well, her face flushed with anger. "Chloe, I'm sorry, but even I think you're being paranoid. You can't attack Leo just because you can't find Ethan. He's the one who's sick. This has nothing to do with him." Chloe stared at the father and daughter in utter disbelief. She had laid out all the evidence, clear as day, and they still refused to believe her. In that moment, she finally understood what I must have gone through in this house. "You're all hopeless," she said, turning to leave. Just then, Clara muttered, "Dad, even though he's gone, Ethan never actually gave us the paperwork for the patent he promised Leo. Without that, it's going to be a problem for Leo's graduate program applications, isn't it?" "He didn't leave it?" my father asked. "What about that box on his desk?" "I already opened it," Clara said. "There was just an old cassette player inside, nothing else." "Why would he leave that?" It was just a casual remark, but Leo, still sitting on the couch, suddenly went pale, as if he'd just realized something terrible. Chloe noticed his reaction immediately. Could there be something on the recorder? She saw my father about to toss the device into the trash. "Wait," Chloe said, stepping forward. "I want to hear what's on it." Their conversation had sparked an idea. Ethan had left that recorder in a box in plain sight for a reason. What's the point of listening to it? My father grumbled. It's probably just him cursing us out. It's bad luck. Just throw it away. Uncharacteristically, Leo jumped up from the couch. He lunged for the cassette player, trying to rip the tape out. He was acting frantic, a stark contrast to his usual calm demeanor. Stop! Chloe intercepted him, refusing to let him destroy it. As they struggled for it, she managed to slam her finger down on the play button. After a burst of static, a familiar, gloating voice filled the silent room. It was Leo's. Ethan, get on your knees and beg me. Maybe I'll ask Dad to forgive you. The voice on the tape was nothing like the timid boy they knew. It was arrogant and cruel. Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't killed yourself yet. Is it fun, living like a stray dog? After you're dead, I'll make sure your old man joins you soon enough. A little father-son reunion. And then, everything this family has will be mine. I'll take very good care of your sister. And your precious Chloe, too. They both trust me completely. They'll believe anything I tell them, especially your father. That old fool is the easiest of all. All I have to do is flatter him a little, and he's wrapped around my finger. He even helped me come up with the blood transfusion lie to win Clara over. Do you think she'd be so grateful she'd climb right into my bed to thank me? I bet she would. Ah, there's your sister calling me. I'll deal with you later. After tonight, I'll make sure you're not even allowed in the attic anymore. You'll be living in the basement like the rat you are. Ha ha ha. The recording clicked off, plunging the living room into a dead, suffocating silence. Clara was trembling, an expression of pure, horrified disbelief on her face as she stared at Leo. My father's face was purple with rage. He had treated Leo better than his own son, done everything for him, had even been ready to legally adopt him. And all along, the boy had been plotting to kill him and steal everything he owned. Even Chloe was stunned. She never imagined the recording would contain something so monstrous. Without this tape, they never would have believed me. No explanation would have been enough. They would never have believed those words came from Leo. She thought about all the pain I must have endured, and her eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth, fighting back a wave of nausea as tears streamed down her face. Mr. Johnson, please, let me explain, Leo pleaded. It's not what it sounds like. Ethan faked that recording. He's trying to frame me. He was desperate, but the panic in his eyes gave him away. You little snake, my father roared, his voice shaking with fury. You dare lie to my face? He exploded like a volcano, tackling Leo to the ground and raining down punches on his face. The sickening thud of fist on bone echoed through the room. Leo's cries for mercy became broken whimpers as he convulsed on the floor. Tears and snot streamed down his battered face. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, he sobbed. I'm just an orphan. I just wanted a family so much. That's why I lied. He grabbed my father's leg, banging his own head against the floor. Please, forgive me. I'll never lie again. My father stared down at him, his eyes bloodshot, and answered with another brutal punch. By the time my father finally stopped, Leo was a motionless, bloody heap on the floor. Clara's voice was hollow, as if coming from a great distance. The day of the accident, she whispered. Who really gave me their blood? My father flinched as if struck, then began slapping his own face hard. It was Ethan, he howled, tearing at his hair. It was your brother. I was out of my mind. I just wanted you to get along with Leo, so I told him to lie. The hospital records will prove it was Ethan. Hearing her father's confession, Clara's eyes widened in horror. Her nails dug into the leather sofa, leaving 5 white scratches. She threw her head back and let out a piercing shriek that cut off abruptly at its peak. Her body went rigid, and she fell backward, fainting dead away. My father lunged to catch her, his face a mask of agony. He knew this was all his fault, a result of his blatant favoritism. He looked at Chloe, who had been silent through it all, his throat working. Did you find him? He asked, his voice raspy. Do you know where Ethan is? I'll go with you. I'll get on my knees and beg him to come home. I'll do anything to make it right. Hearing this, Chloe's eyes remained empty and numb. She said nothing, her fists clenched so tight her nails drew blood from her palms. She didn't seem to notice the pain or the blood dripping onto the floor. What was this small pain? It was nothing compared to the agony Ethan must have felt, being betrayed by everyone he loved. Mr. Johnson, she said, her voice as fragile as glass. He's not coming back. Just then, a violent pounding on the front door shattered the tense silence. A group of large, thuggish-looking men covered in tattoos barged into the house. They were loan sharks. It turned out Leo had a serious gambling problem. He had borrowed hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover his debts, and with the insane interest rates, he now owed over $1 million. "Please," my father begged, falling to his knees, his face white with terror. "I have nothing to do with him. Take him, just don't hurt us." "The kid told us you were in the process of adopting him," the leader said with a grin. "That makes him your son, and you can't get out of it. Fathers pay their sons' debts. That's the rule." The man threw an IOU at my father's feet. "With interest, you owe us $1.8 million. You have until the 15th of next month to pay up. If you don't, I'll take it out of your hides." He punctuated the threat by swinging a large knife down, splitting the glass coffee table in two. His men then proceeded to splash red paint all over the walls and furniture. My father sat in the middle of the wreckage, completely broken. He watched as the red paint dripped down a cross-stitch sampler on the wall that read "Home Sweet Home." "My mother made that," he sobbed. He remembered her saying she would pass it down to her first grandchild one day. Chloe quickly called for an ambulance for both Leo and Clara. My father's broken sobs mingled with Leo's pained groans, turning the paint-splattered living room into a vision of hell. For the Johnson family, the real nightmare was just beginning. Miles away, I found a sunny spot on the lawn of the institute, near a large oak tree, and sat down. The sterile scent of the lab still clung to me. I loosened my collar, breathing in the fresh air and tossing the last of my sandwich crumbs to the pigeons. I had been at the institute for 3 months now. Most days I was in the lab from dawn till dusk. My ID card was a permanent fixture in my lab coat. The work was grueling, a pace most people couldn't handle. But after everything I had been through, it was a welcome distraction. The new drug development team I was on was composed of some of the most brilliant minds in medicine, true giants in their fields. Even though I was just a junior research assistant, I had learned more in these 3 months than in all my years of university. The notebook by my bed was already almost full, its pages filled with dense, handwritten notes and the occasional chemical stain. They had unexpectedly given me the afternoon off, and I found I had nowhere to go. The only thing I still wasn't used to here was the food, although for the past week or so, the meals delivered to the lab had been different. They were simpler, lighter, and much more to my taste. I must have dozed off. A few hours later, the cool evening breeze woke me. I sat up, brushing the grass from the back of my neck. My lab coat was dotted with breadcrumbs and a stray pigeon feather. To maximize our research time, all our meals were delivered directly from the main cafeteria. Since I had the afternoon off, I decided to eat in the cafeteria itself. But after one bite of the food, I paused. It was completely different from the meals I'd been getting, heavy and spicy. Had the regular chef come back? I put down my fork and walked around to the kitchen entrance. I saw a familiar figure standing at a prep station, an apron tied around her waist, carefully chopping vegetables. A stray lock of hair had escaped her bun and brushed against her collarbone as she worked. The apron was tied neatly around her slim waist. I could see a faint pink burn mark on her forearm. I walked closer, but she was so focused she didn't notice me. "Maya," I said softly. She jumped, startled, and the knife slipped from her hand, clattering into the sink. She clearly never expected me to find her here. Her face flushed a deep red. "Mr. Peterson, I thought you promised you wouldn't tell him." The head chef just chuckled and waved his hand. I didn't say a word. "What are you doing here?" I asked, completely bewildered. "This is a secure facility. How did you even get in, let alone into the kitchen?" "You didn't know?" the chef said with a grin. "Maya is the granddaughter of our institute's director emeritus. She basically grew up on this campus. This place is like a second home to her," he explained, stirring a large pot of soup. "She heard you were having trouble with the local food, so she arranged to come here and cook for you herself. She said you had a sensitive stomach. She even borrowed some of her grandfather's special aged herbs to make you broth." "Stop it, Mr. Peterson," Maya mumbled, her face now completely red. She shyly tried to hide her burned arm behind her back. It was both adorable and heartbreaking. Later that night, we sat on a stone bench under the stars. She let me see her arm. In the moonlight, her skin looked like porcelain. I gently applied some burn cream to the pink scar. She flinched slightly at the touch. "This is a pretty bad burn," I said. "It'll scar if you're not careful. You're a med student, you should know better." "It's fine," she said quietly. "Who's going to notice a little scar on my arm?" "I would," I said, sighing. Her eyes widened in surprise. After I finished bandaging the burn, I looked at her seriously. "Maya, you need to go back to school tomorrow. I appreciate what you're doing, I really do. But I don't have time for a relationship right now. And I don't want you sacrificing your own studies for me." She opened her mouth to protest, but I continued. But if you place in the top 50 on next year's national residency match, I'll be waiting for you. I knew how she felt about me, and I wasn't indifferent to her. But I couldn't let her throw away her future for a crush. With my promise as motivation, she finally agreed to return to her university. The next day, I carried her bags and took her to the airport. "Can I have a hug before I go?" she asked, looking up at me with hopeful eyes. I nodded, and she threw her arms around me. She buried her face in my chest, and for a moment, I was lost in the scent of her hair and the feeling of her heart beating against mine. After a long moment, she reluctantly pulled away. I watched her plane until it was a tiny speck in the sky. I could almost still feel the softness of her hair against my cheek. The next spring, as the first buds appeared on the trees, our team had a major breakthrough in our research. We had a small celebration, but as I was leaving the lab building, I froze. Chloe was standing there, wrapped in a faded purple trench coat. She looked like a wilted flower in the cold spring air. It had been a year, and she looked thin and exhausted. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. A spark of life returned to her tired eyes. "Ethan," she breathed, her voice trembling with a mixture of shock and relief. But her joy froze as I took a deliberate step back. "Don't touch me." I held up a hand, creating an invisible barrier between us. I could see her heart breaking in her eyes. She shook her head, biting her lips so hard I was afraid it would bleed, trying to hold back tears. "Do you hate me that much?" she whispered. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to see you. Please, can we just talk for a minute?" She wanted to tell me so many things. How much she missed me. How she had spent every day of the past year hating herself. She wanted to rip open her chest and show me the mess inside. But when she met my cold, empty gaze, all the words died in her throat. She couldn't speak. A gust of wind scattered new spring leaves between us, and it felt like an impassable chasm had opened up. "You should go," I said, my voice flat. "I don't want to see you." I turned to walk away. "No, wait," she cried, reaching for me, but her hand closed on empty air. A security guard stepped between us, a silent, imposing figure. Through her tears, she watched my back as I walked away, disappearing into the building. It was like watching the last grains of sand slip through her fingers. After more than a year of searching, she had finally found me, only to lose me all over again. The air grew cold. She didn't realize she was biting her lip until she tasted blood. For this reunion, she had spent a year searching, checking every corner of every city she could think of. She had let her own studies fall by the wayside. Finally, her university dean, unable to watch his former star student waste away, had told her where I was. As soon as she found out, she booked the first flight. She hadn't even stopped for a drink of water on the way. She just wanted to see me. But now that she had found me, she was faced with a cruel reality. I was no longer the boy she remembered, the one who would have forgiven her for anything. No matter how hard she looked, she could find no trace of the old affection in my cold, empty eyes. We were like two distant celestial bodies, separated by an impossible distance, able to see but never touch. She would have preferred my hatred, my anger, anything over this cold indifference. Back in my room, my own mind was in turmoil. I was sure I no longer had any feelings for Chloe. But seeing her again, hearing her desperate sobs, I realized that no matter how cold I acted, I wasn't a machine. I couldn't keep my heart perfectly still. After my mother died, it was Chloe who took my hand and pulled me out of the darkness. She had been the brightest light in my life. She had also been the sharpest knife. Letting go was not as simple as I had thought. The lab was brightly lit, the glow of the monitors reflecting in the bubbling beakers. I was so lost in thought that a glass flask shattered in my hand. A shard of glass sliced open my palm. The girl who had once pulled me from the darkness was now reopening all the old wounds with a sharper blade. The next day, the security guard at the gate told me she was still there. She hadn't eaten, and she refused to leave no matter what they said. It was as if she planned to wait there until she died. On the third night, during a heavy downpour, the guard came to my room. "She's still out there," he said, his voice worried. I offered her an umbrella, but she refused. "She's going to get seriously ill if she stays out there." At the institute's gate, rainwater was pooling around Chloe's ankles. Her thin coat was soaked through, weighing her down. After 3 days with no food, water, or sleep, she looked like she could collapse at any second. Just as her vision started to blur and her knees began to buckle, a black umbrella appeared above her, shielding her from the rain. "You came," she whispered. I wrapped my own coat around her shivering shoulders, and the tears she had been holding back for 3 days finally broke free. She collapsed to her knees in front of me, all her pride and dignity washed away in the rain. "Ethan," she sobbed, "please, I'm begging you, come home with me." I can't live without you. I'll do anything, just please come back. I knelt in front of her and gently wiped the rain and tears from her cheeks. My voice was barely a whisper. Thank you for taking me in all those years ago, for helping me through that first winter. But this is the last time we can see each other. Please, don't make me hate you. I'm not worth this. Chloe just stared at me, her expression blank. She was learning that the most painful goodbyes are the quietest ones. It's when he gently wipes away your tears, but his eyes reflect a future you're not in. Is there really no hope for us? She asked, her voice pleading. I didn't answer. My silence was the only answer I could give. It wasn't that I couldn't say no. It was that I didn't know how to say goodbye in a way that wouldn't break her completely. This silence was the last kindness I could offer her. I understand, she whispered, finally defeated. I helped her to her feet. I pulled an old cassette tape from my coat pocket. She recognized it instantly. It was from the first gift I ever gave her. The mixtape I had made for her with all her favorite songs. She had given it back to me when she chose Leo a final, clean break. It was her biggest regret. When she couldn't find the tape in the player I'd left, she assumed I had burned it with the rest of our memories. She never imagined I would have kept it. I should have burned this, I said quietly. But then there would be no proof that I ever loved you. I placed the cassette in her coat pocket. Don't lose it this time. She threw her arms around me, nodding again and again into my chest. Thank you for keeping it, she mumbled against my lab coat. I hugged her back. This was the last time. There in the rain, two broken souls finally laid the past to rest, not with words, but with a silent embrace. The next day, as Chloe sat on the plane, gazing out at the clouds from 30,000 feet, her fingers traced the familiar shape of the old cassette in her pocket. It was now the most precious thing she owned. Sunlight broke through the clouds, spilling through the small window and warming her face. For the first time in a long, long time, she was finally able to sleep. When she returned, she never told my father where I was, no matter how many times he came to her asking. Although my father had beaten Leo nearly to death and thrown him out of the house, on paper, Leo was still his adopted son. He was a parasite David Johnson couldn't get rid of. One night, backed into a corner by gambling debts, Leo snuck back into the Johnson house through a window. He planned to steal the deed to the property and sell it. But my father caught him before he could escape. They fought, and in the struggle, Leo shoved my father hard. My father fell, his head cracking against the sharp corner of a desk. He never got up again. Realizing my father wasn't breathing, Leo panicked, stole the family car, and tried to flee in the dead of night. But in his frantic state, he lost control on a dark road and drove the car into a river. The wreck wasn't found for 2 days, eventually spotted by some local fishermen. When Clara learned of her father's death and that Leo was missing, she suffered a complete mental breakdown. She walked into the path of a speeding truck, ending her life. 3 years later, our lab had its final breakthrough. The new drug we developed proved to have a revolutionary therapeutic effect on Alzheimer's disease, sending shockwaves through the medical world. I didn't attend the press conference. By then, I had become the youngest principal investigator at the institute, leading my own research team and having won several national awards. On that very same day, I married Maya Reed, my partner for the last 2 years. We held an outdoor ceremony, kissing under a shower of flower petals, surrounded by the blessings of our friends and colleagues. In the distance, a lone figure watched the ceremony. After a long moment, she turned and quietly slipped away. 2 years later, Maya gave birth to fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. At the party we threw to celebrate their birth, a gift arrived from a courier. Inside was a pair of pure gold lockets for the children and a stunning emerald bracelet. The card read, CEO, Luna Cosmetics. Maya looked at it, impressed. Luna Cosmetics was a new powerhouse in the industry, a rising star that had appeared just last year. The CEO, I'd heard, was a young woman who had built her own beauty empire from scratch in just a few short years. When did we start running in such impressive circles? Maya laughed. I put my arm around my wife and spoke to the courier. Please send her our thanks, I said gently, and tell her that I'm very happy. I hope she is too.